Okay, the next unit is on the internet. Um, so, the internet is a collection of systems that are connected worldwide using software and hardware. All parts of the internet have agreed upon protocols which control that is a set of rules to make sure everybody can communicate properly. So, agreed upon protocols and addresses, ways to find hardware on the internet that allow the system to work. The internet has revolutionized communication and collaboration worldwide. Due to the open and trust based nature of the internet, cybersecurity is an important concern. So, here's all the things that you need to know. The internet is governed by protocols. So, when you connect to the internet, your phone, your computer, your tablet, your device needs an IP address. Other things about the internet: the domain name system translates domain names to the IP address. Domain names are human-readable addresses. An example of a domain name would be rea.com. Domain names are entered into a browser such as Chrome, Mozilla, or Safari. The domain name system was created to make it easier for people to access information on the internet. The DNS translates the text like like rea.com into an IP address. IP addresses are strings of numbers that are not easily understood by a person looking at the address. The way IP addresses are handled and stored is called the Internet Protocol. So let's take a look at an example. So in your notes, um, here's a little picture of the IP address. The first part gives us the network address or site prefix. The second part, so after the first, there'd be a dot here, some numbers, a dot, and the subnet, which is the subnetwork, and then another dot, then the host or the actual computer or phone or tablet that you are trying to reach. Okay, so there are two main internet protocols, IPv4 and IPv6. So IPv4 uses 4 bytes. And remember, 1 byte is 8 bits, so 4 bytes would be 32 bits. So this would allow 2 to the 32 or 4 million addresses. Well, the internet has just ballooned, and it appears that that's not enough addresses to satisfy the demand around the world. So recently, there's been a new revelation where we need more bytes and more bits. So IPv6 was developed where we actually getting 16 bits. I'm sorry, 16 bytes or 128 bits. So if IPv4 was 2 to the 32, then IPv6 is going to be 2 to the 128, which is just this largely crazy number. Now, compare V6 with V4. So if you took 2 to the 128 over 2 to the 32, this is 2 to the 96 bigger. There are approximately 80 octillion as many addresses available in IPv6. There are several protocols that control how devices communicate on the internet. These are all governed by the IETF, the Internet Engineering Task Force. So many protocols, some of which we talked about in this class, include HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol, IP, the Internet Protocol. There are some others here, including Simple Mail Transfer Protocol, and then the other main one we talked about is the TCP, the Transfer Control Protocol. The internet is managed by hierarchies. It's a structure with many levels, each having a specific purpose. It's important to understand the levels and roles related to the internet. Often we talk about mailing a letter when we're talking about the hierarchical nature of the internet. So when you send someone an address, the envelope looks like this. This is where it's going, and this is who it's from. The U.S. Postal Service is hierarchical in a way which mail is delivered. The post office receives a letter first by looking at the zip code. The letter is sent there. Then it's sent to the post office that services mail to the binary highway, which is the street address. And then once it's on that route, the mail carrier will drop it off at number one, which is where it was addressed. Whoever lives at number one is responsible for being sure that Alice receives Bob's letters. So protocols and hierarchies go hand in hand. At all levels of a hierarchy, protocols are followed. Remember, protocols mean rules. By making these protocols public and using hierarchies to control them, the internet has evolved to be a network of systems that can be accessed, used, and modified by us. So example of hierarchies that are part of the design of the internet. So the first example is an IP address. The order of the digits matter, and we talked about this already. The first part, the second part, and the third part. You need to know how to convert between binary and decimal for the AP exam. So why IPv6? So IPv6 was a solution to an overflow problem that happened when the number of IP addresses needed exceeded what IPv4 could support. So again, it has 128 bits. It is normally written as 8 groups of 4 hex digits. Each hex digit is 4 bits, and so it's worth 128 bits. But IPv6 itself is usually written in hex form because 128 bits is too long. Here is an example of what an IPv6 address might look like. Just like in an IPv4 address, as you move from left to right, you get closer to the network. You get closer to where the information is really going to. The site prefix is generally public knowledge, while the subnet, the middle part, and the interface ID is privately known by your network. URLs must conform to the DNS, which was invented to make it possible for people to remember addresses rather than having to remember hex or binary numbers. URLs are text-based versions of websites. They are human-readable web addresses. The URL has the correct language, words, and system to deliver messages online and to any connected device. And here's an example of the URL. Now remember, HTTP stands for Hypertext Transfer Protocol. This is the protocol or rule that tells computers how to view information. It is similar to the flag on your mailbox that helps you and the mail deliver communicate. HTTP is a language with understood meaning. REA is part of the URL, and that's actually the domain name. This is what a person or a company purchased to use for a specific amount of time. Now, the .com is one of 270 different top-level domain extensions, and I know you're familiar with other ones like .org, .gov, and .edu. Hierarchical, the internet and the systems. Every device on the internet gets an IP address that allows it to be used as a device on the internet according to TCP/IP, the Transfer Control Protocol Internet Protocol. Each address is hierarchical. Many addresses can be reached using a domain name that follow the domain name system through a URL. The design and redundancy of the internet has enabled it to grow into a worldwide innovation that changes in a hierarchical way to meet demands.